What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, after years of speculation around a Switch Pro or, well, then a Switch 2, it's finally out. Launch day is here, so let me know some of your experiences if you attended a midnight release last night, or if you're still kind of hanging out, peering through the window, waiting for that UPS driver to drop your new system off. Today, though, we have a lot to go over, which includes quite a bit from that state of play. Of course, we'll go over it line by line to see exactly what was announced there. And then also, while we were expecting some Switch updates for the Switch 2, with some of those being outlined by Nintendo, there were many others that also just started popping up online, making people wonder exactly what's going on with some of these unannounced updates for the next generation. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or the link in the description down below. And we're gonna start today with the Switch 2 and the Day 1 update, which we knew was going to be adding a lot of functionality to the device, and some of the early systems that got out there, they weren't even able to play Switch 1 games through backwards compatibility. Well, now we know exactly how much has been added because Nintendo listed it on their site with that Day 1 update. We can see this, though, posted up. This is over on Nintendo Everything. That just kind of makes it easy to throw everything up on screen from Nintendo's website here. Now, this is for update 20.1.1, and some of the stuff added use of compatible Switch software, which we know it needs backwards compatibility to be updated there for that to function. Nintendo Switch Online, Game Chat, Game Share, System Transfer from Nintendo Switch, Virtual Game Cards, the eShop, so, you know, that's kind of a big one there, News, upload of screenshots and videos to the server, and then link with the smart device apps, Nintendo Switch parental controls, and Nintendo Switch app. Now, I will say a lot of this stuff, like, you know, the eShop, you kind of need the internet to use that in the first place, so there you go. But I mean, backwards compatibility with the Switch, I mean, look, it's Day 1 update. Many people are going to be updating their system right away when they get it anyway, so it's probably not a huge deal to them in general. And then, as we go along, these systems will ship with later and later firmware anyway, so this is more of a Day 1, like Day 0, basically, kind of situation that we kind of went through even with the currents with the Switch 1, the old Switch now, right? It's launch day for the Switch 2. Let's get that right. Also, we had a bit of a surprise entry for launch titles for the Switch 2. This we can see is posted up over on Hello Games YouTube channel, with No Man's Sky getting a Switch 2 edition, saying they're rendering significantly more than before at a much higher resolution and at an increased frame rate. We've upped texture density across the board, cross-save, cross-play, gyro controls, touchscreen, and multiplayer are all there from Day 1, along with 9 years of updates. Now, this is alongside of their Beacon update that's also available now, that across all platforms. So they're saying we're overhauling settlements and adding those to the Switch 2 too, something that just wasn't possible before. Now, they have the full patch notes there as well available in the description of their video, but for the most part, No Man's Sky in general, it was impressive just to see it on the Switch 1. But it was certainly limited. Now it seems like it's been completely opened up here, and it's more so in parity and in line with all the other versions. So really cool stuff. And get this, free upgrade. I know, it's not normal that you hear that from a third party specifically. Nintendo has some free upgrades. So a third party? No, it's just free. There you go, that's kind of it. And No Man's Sky, as I mentioned before, they've been working to build up their reputation for quite some time. There's just another piece of the puzzle there. So if you have No Man's Sky on the Switch 1, you get a Switch 2. Go ahead and upgrade it and check it out there. Oh, and you remember how we had covered the story of Call of Duty where ads for different loadouts were showing up in players' loadouts just in general while they're going through and customizing? Hey, here's this loadout you should go buy. Well, we have now a response, officially we can see, where they say a UI feature test that surfaced select store content in the loadout menus was published in the Season 4 update in error. This feature has now been removed from the live service. Okay. As you can figure, most people do not believe them that it was an error, and maybe they were testing the waters to see what kind of backlash, if any, they would get. And yeah, they got quite a bit of backlash. So that's a great way actually to cover yourself there. Oh, it was an accident. We didn't mean to do it for a couple of days. We definitely weren't collecting data or just surveying or seeing how people felt. We accidentally hit a few buttons and there you go. That's just how it was. So I see this as them doing some research, testing things, how far can they go with these ads, and now they know they may cross the line there with your loadout screen. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with that Sony State of Play, as there was quite a bit here, and certainly mixed reactions online based on what your preferences were, but that's kind of the situation just about every single time, right? If there's not a game there you're interested in, it's probably a low score and you're just gonna keep walking, right? But in this case, there was actually quite a bit here that I was happy with. There was one thing, though, with this that I think would have put it really over the top in terms of Sony first party. But still, let's go over everything that was here, starting at the top with Luminous Arise. I was not expecting Luminous. This is coming from the Tetris Effect team, studio, and everything there. Fall 2025, optional PSVR 2 support. And get this, a demo coming later this summer. So really cool to see that kick off the state of play. Then we go into Pragmata. This, of course, is from Capcom. Disappeared for a while, showed up, said it was being delayed. Now, though, we had at least a pretty good look at it with some gameplay, it being kind of like this action-based title, sci-fi adventure game almost. There's like an astronaut, and there's a girl that's riding alongside of them on their back. Seems like they have some psychic powers or something there. 2026, though, in this one. Still kind of mysterious, but, I'm interested. I'll keep an eye on that one. Romeo is a Dead Man. When they started showing this off, it looked super weird. And I said, this kind of looks like a Suda game, and it is. Okay, so this is a new Suda 51 Grasshopper game. Action game with swords and guns, as they describe it. Your character dies in the beginning, and then they're brought back. It is coming out, they think, in 2026. So there you go. We'll keep an eye on that one, too. Silent Hill F. Of course, third-person game, as they were showing. No HUD, which I really like that sort of approach. Kind of a similar thing they did with we saw with Silent Hill 2, I should say. And then melee combat was there. Looks really, really creepy. September 25th. So that's going to be one I'm picking up day one here in a few months at this point. Bloodstained, the Scarlet Engagement, this being a follow-up, of course, to just Bloodstained in general there. Still has that nice cel-shaded kind of style. 2.5D action Metroidvania style game. Digimon Story, Time Stranger. It's October 3rd, 2025. Looks like maybe a Digimon game I'd be a bit more interested in outside of Digimon Survive, which just wasn't really my kind of game. This looks more like from what I saw anyway, a turn-based style RPG, so again, I'm more interested in that one. Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles, there it is, ladies and gentlemen, we got our announcement. It has a classic and enhanced version, and the enhanced version looks like they're trying to smooth it out, someone with a filter, but also it's fully voice acted, and they had the entire cast that was revealed, and I mean, it looks like there's some money behind this, is what I'll say. There's even like a full collector's edition that looks awesome over on Square Enix's website. September 30th, all right? So we're not too far away from this one, right? About basically 4 months, okay? And it is coming to the PS4 alongside of the PS5, all right? Then we have Baby Steps. Okay, sure. PS5, September 8th. It's a very strange looking game. We've seen it before, I believe, in a previous event from Sony. We have Hirogami. It's an action-adventure game from Bandai Namco, and it's kind of cool. You transform into paper shapes with different abilities, obviously playing into the origami style. I think the art style looks really cool as well, kind of that paper craft setup. September 3rd, 2025. Everybody's Golf Hot Shots is coming out September 5th, 2025. And if you pre-order, it looks like you can have Pac-Man as a playable character. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, that is out right at the end of July on the 31st. That's PS5 and PS4. Then we have Cairn. It's a climbing game where you scale a large mountain. That's out November 5th. On the PS5, there's a demo out right now. Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection. This is awesome. So as you can figure, it has a lot of the older Mortal Kombat games. I see all the classic arcade, console, handheld games. I saw some Game Boy Advance games in there. Rollback netcode for online play. So it seems like they're taking that a bit more serious. That's cool. It says just 2025. So I was almost hoping for that shadow drop on something. That'd have been cool. Okay, so 2025. I guess we'll look towards that maybe later in the year. Hopefully not too far off, though. It looks awesome, and sounds like they have a few surprises up their sleeves. I'm curious how far they're going to push this Legacy Collection. Like, will they find their way into some of the other weird PS1 games like Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero? We'll see. We'll see with that. There's also a fight stick by PlayStation. Some foreshadowing here, I will say. It is wireless. It's right now titled Project Defiant. No price or release or date or anything I saw there, but just keep that in mind as we go along. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. Looks cool still, I think, but then at the end, it looked like they teased multiplayer, which that would actually be that would add a whole new dimension, whole new element to this release. Again, August 28th on that one. So I kind of feel like they're going to set up to maybe show that a month or two before the game comes out. I say a month or two. We're less than 3 months away from this game coming out. Neo 3, this was a surprise. Early 2026, there is a demo out right now. I saw it pop up as like 34 gigabytes, so it seems like it's quite hefty there for the demo. So check that one out. Neo fans really excited, I'm sure, to see at least a third game in the series there. Then we had a VR game that they were showing off, and I'm looking at this, I say, okay, it looks, I mean, it's a stealth game, sure, but then the title Thief popped up, and I said, wow, okay, so a new Thief game, but it's, you know, it's VR. It's Thief VR Legacy of Shadow, PSVR 2, 2025. Tides of Tomorrow, which is a multiplayer story game. So it looked like you were seeing other players' choices as they were showing off the footage for it. That's February 24th, 2026. Astrobot is getting 5 new challenge levels this month. They even showed off some of the bots, specifically Atsu from Ghost of Yote, and it looks like they're bringing back the Astrobot wireless controller. They say with a twist. It looked like the eyes on that center touchpad were a little different. So maybe that's the big thing there. They're kind of almost like happy or something the way they look there. Sea of Remnants, it looked like a pirate game with ship battles, but then also there were some action elements where you're swinging your sword, and I mean, it looked interesting, I guess. 2026. Swords of the Sea, that's August 19th, 2025, launching into PlayStation Plus right away. Same with FBC Firebreak. That's launching into PlayStation Plus June 17th, just a couple of weeks. We have some classic PlayStation Plus games they gave us updates on. Deus Ex, June 17th. That's actually a really cool game to go in to the service. I'm not saying it's aged particularly well, but it does sort of show you like the beginning of that franchise that has now been kind of forgotten about, but still really cool just in the history of gaming to have that available. And then Twisted Metal 3 and 4, that's July 15th. Resident Evil 2 and 3, summer 2025. And then of course, Myst and Riven are both out this month. So kind of cool to see almost a roadmap of these classic PlayStation Plus games, things to kind of look forward to there. So again, really cool to see a bunch of Twisted Metals thrown in there, some Resident Evils, and then Deus Ex. So, I mean, honestly, not a bad lineup there for the summer. And then we go into IO Interactive. They give us our first real look at 007 First Light, and I gotta tell you, this game looks awesome. Okay, so it's going to go back, of course, being kind of the James Bond origin story, but it looks more action-packed, faster even than Hitman, although you can kind of still see some of the Hitman DNA from their recent titles in there for IO, but it's third person. There's some stealth elements in there. I think it looks great visually. I like kind of the style that they have going there. 2026 on this one, so I'm there day one on 007 First Light. I think it looks awesome. Ghost of Yote was here for like 30 seconds just to tell us that there would be a gameplay deep dive coming in July, which makes sense to have a state of play dedicated to a title like this for Sony ahead of its release later on this year. And they closed out with, I mean, you could say this is the surprise of the show. If I was a big fighting game fan, this would be one of the craziest announcements I've ever seen. Okay, so it's Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls. All right, so here comes Arc System Works and Sony and Marvel all coming together to create a 4v4 tag, super fast, almost Marvel vs. Capcom looking game for the PS5 and the PC. Remember I mentioned that fighting stick. Of course, Sony owns Evo now. All of this kind of comes together and makes sense as maybe this being the big push for the next big like Evo esports fighting game. And here's the thing. If you want to have a good esports title, it's got to look cool. It's got to be fun to watch people play it. And it seems like Arc System Works went crazy here. I mean, the Marvel characters are already a lot of fun, of course, because they have all kinds of over-the-top powers and stuff that they can do here. But then they have these characters all working together with like these huge super attacks. You're also able to punch people out of bounds or ring out, and then they go to the next screen or next area. It just looked like there was a lot of really chaotic action happening here. And I think that plays in nicely for a game that might want to be shown off a lot during some of these big fighting game shows. It is coming out in 2026, and they say they're deep in development. So they're going to be revealing different characters as we go along. So that should be a lot of fun to see what they come up with there. But overall, I was pretty happy with the state of play. The big omission, obviously, is something big from Sony first party. Remember, we had that God of War 2.5D game that was kind of floated and teased. If that was something maybe that closed out or was just in there, you could point to it and say, look, Sony first party. The big reveal, though, from Sony with XDev is the Marvel fighting game, right? And that's not necessarily a Sony property. Although people look at their Spider-Man games with Insomniac kind of like it is, so I don't know. But to me, it was pretty good. I'll give my rating later on, but I don't think I was down on it as much as many other people were online. Next up, let's talk about a bunch of games for the Switch 1 that got an update for the Switch 2, and we were already expecting some. Pokemon clearly being a big one there, the Legend of Zelda games, obviously they've shown those off, but then, the free upgrades, the Mario Odyssey, I thought it'd be kind of cool to see. But now it seems like some other ones, and they're not really descriptive as to what they did to the game. So you can see a list here over on Reddit as people were collecting these as they were going live, and I saw Wario64 was posting constantly as these were popping up. But like from top to bottom, again, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Captain Toad, 3D World, Bowser's Fury, all expected. But then you start seeing things like Xenoblade Chronicles 3 popping up. It's like, what? Whoa. What did they do there exactly? Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Same thing, I'm not sure. Kirby Star Allies. And then Super Mario 3D All-Stars, I have no idea why they updated. That's a delisted game. So when you go over and take a look, for example, at Super Mario Bros. Wonder, the last update, 1.0.2, was released June 3rd, and all it says is several adjustments have been made to improve gameplay on Nintendo Switch 2. And that's kind of it. So now everyone's just like, I don't really know what happened here. So I don't think we're going to see the kind of updates that, say, Mario Odyssey got, which if you see some of the comparisons right now online for Mario Odyssey, it looks super clean on the Switch 2. Like side by side, you have the wipe effect where you can kind of go back and forth between the two. It just looks really, really sharp on the Switch 2 versus the Switch 1. I feel like these are mostly things that have to tie up some loose ends, especially in Mario 3D All-Stars. I know there was a combination of rewriting the code and then also emulation for something like Mario Sunshine or Mario Galaxy. Maybe there were some things they had to just fix up slightly so that it all worked correctly on the Switch 2. I don't think all of a sudden you're going to turn it on and it's 1440p upscaled to 4K or something like that. But I am curious. So yeah, these are going to be some games that I guess I'll be testing out alongside of many others just to see, all alongside of course, how does the frame rate hold up now, maybe with boosted through emulation on the Switch 2 and resolution maybe doesn't have to drop as much. That's, I think, half the fun right now is going back to some of these older games that didn't perform well, we'll say, on the Switch 1 and see how they fare on the Switch 2. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Nintendo continuing their takedown spree when it comes to that Nintendo Today application, which we know people have been pulling video, or for a while, we're pulling video from it for different things that were posted. Gameplay was a big one, clearly, and they would just post it up on social media, so you don't have to go to the app and check it out there. You can see it right there, say, on your PC, if you're just scrolling through X or something like that. Nintendo does not like this. They've worked in the application to make it so you can't screen record when you have it open, and now it seems like they are very active when it comes to copyright takedowns. For example, you can see this posted up. This is from Today News. It's a bot that was basically just whenever an update would happen, they would then re-upload, say, the footage here on X, so it's easy to kind of view it. Say, due to copyright takedowns for Nintendo, this account will no longer be able to post content from news posts. We'll still post when new content is available, but you'll need to view the content itself within the app. iOS users can tap our links to open the app directly, so there's still at least a use there where if you have, say, a notification on for that, it'll tell you, hey, this thing just got posted on Nintendo Today, go check it out. But it's not seamless, here it is, you can just view it here. And people are still wondering, why is Nintendo doing this? And I will say it feels kind of archaic and just strange to be stop showing people those commercials, okay? They have to come view it on our application. That's really why. They want you to download the app, that's the point, so they can have a direct line to you to then just show you more promotional material. That really is it. They see it as that important with their Nintendo Today app. This kind of reminds me of way back, I shouldn't say way back when, it was 7 or 8 years ago, when Nintendo did their creators program where you had to go through them to just use footage of their games. Similar, not necessarily to that level though, because here it's just striking stuff down, getting it off of, say, the social media bots account that was pretty useful in general, just to be able to see the stuff there. Now though, they'll at least alert you, just got to make sure you have that Nintendo Today app, download it because it's really important that you watch it in that app specifically. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, give the Sony State of Play a letter grade. Okay, B was leading at 40%, C at 29%, D at 18%, A at 13%. I'm sitting at a B. I will say, if they had some kind of big first-party game to close out this, not like, oh, we're partnering with Marvel and Arc System Works to do this. Again, really cool announcement. Something like if Naughty Dog showed up and was like, oh yeah, we were working on another game, here it is. Or even that 2.5D God of War, I would have gone, you know what? That's an interesting release. That's a cool announcement. You know, I will take this over to an A. I feel like there was just a lot of variety there. There were some interesting announcements, and it was just overall a pretty good, snappy presentation with a lot to offer. Just that last big first-party announcement. And that's, I think, what a lot of people were expecting going into a Sony State of Play. It just wasn't there to really put the exclamation point on the entire event. But let me know what your grade was down below for the Sony State of Play. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Martin, who says, where's Beyond Good and Evil 2? Come on, Ubisoft. I kind of feel like that's a game that Ubisoft is hoping people forget about and they can quietly cancel it. Although I would have thought the same thing about Skull and Bones. But then that does come out and they're still updating it. Although I think that had some kind of ties to a government somewhere in the world or something. Maybe they had to get it out. I don't know. But them updating it is still kind of strange. So maybe this is something that Ubisoft is very stubborn about. And they're, no. Eventually, Beyond Good and Evil 2 is going to come out, even if it has to be rebooted over and over and over again. Even if it's a PS6 game and it's out in the 2030s, it'll come out. Or maybe they just realize everyone forgot about it and they just quietly cancel it and just completely move on. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you'll see some of the Switch 2 coverage that I'll be doing today. I'll pick one of those videos and I'll leave it right below it. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.